Welcome back to the BCBA mock exam channel. Let me start with a question that a lot of people ask, but very few people can explain clearly from beginning to end. How do you actually become a BCBA? A lot of people know the title. Some people know there's an exam. But once you start looking into it, you realize the process includes education, fieldwork, documentation, application steps, and then responsibilities after certification too. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through the full path in a clear step-by-step way. We'll talk about what a BCBA is, what the certification path looks like, what you need in terms of degree, coursework, fieldwork, and exam, and also what happens after you pass. The goal here is to stop guessing the BCBA path and start seeing it as a structured process you can actually follow. Before we talk about the steps, we need to be very clear about what a BCBA actually is. BCBA stands for Board Certified Behavior Analyst. This is a graduate-level professional certification in applied behavior analysis. When we say graduate level, we mean that the credential is built on advanced academic preparation, not entry-level training. A BCBA can provide behavior analytic services independently, which means they have the authority to assess behavior, design interventions, and make clinical decisions without needing another professional above them for routine oversight. A BCBA also has supervision authority. That means they supervise RBTs, BCABAs, and in many settings other professionals involved in implementing behavior analytic services. So if I had to summarize the role functionally, a BCBA assesses, designs, supervises, and practices independently. That combination is what makes this certification distinct. Now let's look at the BCBA path as a full sequence, because this slide is really your roadmap. The journey begins with reading the handbook. That may sound basic, but it matters because official requirements can change, and the handbook is where you verify the current rules. Then you choose your pathway. After that, you complete the degree and required coursework. Then you finish your supervised fieldwork. Once those pieces are done, you apply to the BCBA, schedule, and pass the exam, and then maintain your certification over time. What I want you to notice is that becoming a BCBA is not a single milestone. It is a sequence of linked requirements. And the reason many people get delayed is not because the process is impossible, but because they misunderstand the order. So this slide gives you the big picture structure: handbook, pathway, degree, fieldwork, application, exam, and maintenance. Now let's go deeper into the first major decision point, which is choosing the right eligibility pathway. According to this slide, there are two main pathways most applicants use right now. Pathway 1 is an accredited degree program. That means your degree comes from an APBA accredited or ABI accredited or recognized behavior analysis program. The key feature here is that it is an all-in-one accredited option, which usually makes the process more streamlined. Pathway 2 is a master's degree plus qualifying coursework. In this pathway, the degree and the behavior analytic coursework may be separate. This option is often relevant for people whose graduate degree is in a related field rather than in a fully accredited ABA program. The important teaching point here is that both pathways can lead to BCBA eligibility, but they are not administratively identical. Also, the slide highlights future changes, including a long-term move toward Pathway 1 only in 2032. So the safest mindset is always to verify the most current handbook and plan ahead rather than assuming older information is still valid. Once you understand the pathway options, the next step is completing the degree and coursework requirements. The common requirement for both pathways is that BCBA certification requires a master's degree or higher from a qualifying institution. That is the core educational threshold. From there, the difference is in how the coursework is packaged. In Pathway 1, the program itself includes all required behavior analytic coursework within the degree curriculum. That is why it's often considered the most streamlined route. In Pathway 2, you still need a qualifying graduate degree, but you must also complete qualifying graduate-level behavior analytic coursework separately. This makes Pathway 2 more flexible for people coming from related areas like psychology or education, but it also means you have to be more careful with documentation and alignment. And this slide includes a very important administrative point for Pathway 2 applicants. For 2026 applications and beyond, the coursework attestation must be submitted by the program contact and must already be in your BCBA account before you apply. That's exactly the kind of detail that can delay an application if you overlook it. After the academic requirements, we move into supervised fieldwork, which is one of the biggest parts of the BCBA journey. This slide shows two fieldwork options. The first is supervised fieldwork, which requires 2,000 hours. The second is concentrated supervised fieldwork, which requires 1,500 hours. So concentrated fieldwork reduces the total number of hours, but it comes with stricter supervision requirements, which we'll see more clearly on the next slide. There are also 3 major rules on this slide that you should not treat as side notes. First, the fieldwork must be completed in applied behavior analysis. Second, you must meet monthly structure requirements. And third, at least 60% of your total fieldwork must be unrestricted activities. That last term is important. Unrestricted activities are higher-level professional activities such as assessment, data analysis, program design, and other tasks that reflect BCB-level competencies. So fieldwork is not just about accumulating hours. It is about accumulating the right type of hours in the right structure. This slide is crucial because it shows the fieldwork rules that can make or break eligibility. First, each month must include between 20 and 130 hours of fieldwork. That means you cannot simply do a huge burst one month and nothing the next if it takes you outside the monthly structure rules. Second, the supervision requirements differ by fieldwork type. For supervised fieldwork, you need at least 4 contacts per month and at least 5% of hours supervised. For concentrated supervised fieldwork, you need at least 6 contacts per month and at least 10% of hours supervised. Then there are 2 critical must-haves. At least 50% of supervised hours must be individual, meaning one-on-one supervision, and at least 1 observation with a client is required during each supervisory period. The big teaching point here is that fieldwork eligibility is not only about the total final number of hours. It is also about monthly compliance with structure rules. That is why missing even one requirement can delay eligibility. This slide focuses on documentation, and honestly, this is where many otherwise qualified candidates create unnecessary delays. The required documentation includes monthly fieldwork verification forms, final fieldwork verification forms, official transcripts, and for Pathway 2 applicants, the coursework attestation. Now let's clarify the difference between monthly and final forms. Monthly fieldwork verification forms must be completed during fieldwork each month. Final fieldwork verification forms are completed at the end of each fieldwork experience. So one tracks ongoing monthly compliance, and the other closes out a fieldwork relationship or experience. The slide also highlights a documentation process flow: fieldwork, forms, approval. That is a good way to think about it. If the fieldwork happens but the forms are late, incomplete, or missing, your application process becomes vulnerable. And the most common trap called out here is exactly what catches many Pathway 2 applicants: forgetting the coursework attestation. So the smartest habit is to organize documentation early and submit or verify items promptly rather than trying to fix everything right before the application. Once your degree, coursework, fieldwork, and documentation are all in place, you reach step 5, apply, schedule, and pass the BCBA exam. The first part is the application itself, which is submitted through your BCBA account. The slide notes an application fee of $245, and it also emphasizes that all documents should already be in your account before you apply. After BCBA approval, you schedule the exam through Pearson VUE. The appointment fee shown here is $125. The slide also gives a useful planning tip: budget a total of $370 in fees before you apply, so the cost does not become a surprise barrier right at the finish line. Then we get to exam day. The exam is 4 hours total, includes 185 multiple-choice questions, and is administered in English only. One very important point on this slide is the common trap. 10 of the 185 questions are unscored pilot items, and you will not know which ones they are. That means the correct mindset is to treat every question as if it counts. So this step is not only administrative, it is also strategic. Once you reach this point, the process becomes about execution under standardized exam conditions. The final slide is important because it reminds us that passing the exam is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of practicing as a BCBA. After certification, there is ongoing maintenance. That includes continuing education, which means completing approved CUs during each recertification cycle to stay current with best practices. It also includes ethics and self-reporting, which reflects an ongoing professional obligation. In other words, certification is not something you earn once and then ignore. It comes with continuing accountability to the BCBA ethics code and to reporting relevant violations or changes in eligibility. Then there is the recertification cycle, which means the credential must be renewed periodically by meeting all required renewal conditions. And finally, the slide reminds you to always stay updated. That's an important professional habit. Requirements, handbook details, and policy changes can evolve. So responsible practice includes checking the latest BCBA handbook and upcoming changes regularly. So if we zoom all the way out, becoming a BCBA is not just about passing an exam. It is about entering a profession with structured preparation, ethical standards, and ongoing responsibility. And if you want to start that journey with more confidence and practice the exam side of the process, you can use www.bcbamockexam.com as part of your preparation.